Hi, I'm Chris Benarchuk. I'm from Winnipeg originally. That's why I'm wearing a jacket. It's perfunctory. It's like my tail. How are you guys doing out there? Okay? Following along? All right. I'm a notoriously really slow typer, and it took me about half an hour to write this stuff, so it should take me about 10 minutes to read it, so I'll be quick. Just to speak to a few things Mohammed and Daryl said. We were talking about polls where people were in support in the States of the Occupy movement. There was one reported by the Young Turks, which is an alternative media source. It was about the popular support in America was about at 62% in that report. And shortly after that, politicians started making statements saying, or statements that were sympathetic to occupiers. However, in the statements, it was perceived that they were made because they were sowing seeds for upcoming future elections, trying to win voters. So I'm here to talk about Occupy Detroit. It's a cool shirt I got. And I just want to go over a bit of the political climate that started the movement. I never thought I'd be sitting in between two university professors on a forum. This is kind of tripping me out today. So, I'm going way back, bear with me here. Declaration of Independence, all right? So, everyone knows that, yeah, U.S. colonies unhappy with the way they were being interpreted by the King of Britain at the time, King George III. Their grievances included British troops staying in their homes, lack of ability to make independent political decisions, high taxes. So they weren't politically anonymous, but yet they were living autonomously. So skip ahead to the future, or rather the present, and what you had back when they were writing, creating the Declaration of Independence was disparity between nations, and now you have sort of disparity within one nation, at least where the Occupy Wall Street started. So faith in the political system was at a low. The voter turnouts have been consistently low in the U.S. When Obama ran for president, the voter turnout was the highest it had been at any presidential election since 1968, signifying that voters wanted a change and thought it would come with the Obama administration. They had to mobilize city workers because the infrastructure wasn't there to set up all the long lines at the polls. But even with, and some states even declared a state of emergency. But even with the high voter turnout, it was only, the reports say, 57% of the potential voters were out voting. And in 68 which was the second highest time since 68. 68 was only 61%. So when Obama got indicted, just a quick story, I was in San Francisco, or inaugurated rather. I was in, yeah, whoops. Maybe a future to come. I don't know. I was in San Francisco when Obama got inaugurated, and the day of his inauguration, people were they were coming up to me, like people I was hanging out with or getting to know down there. I was down there for about 2 weeks, and they were like, "Hey, are you coming tonight?" And I thought, "What are you talking about?" You know. Like, the inauguration party, there's going to be like 5 DJs. You know, when was the last time that you or I got down all night because like Chrétien got in, or Harper got in office? I don't remember even doing a 5-minute jig, right? So there was kind of a euphoria because they thought, the desire for change was there and they thought it was going to come. Apparently he didn't though. In October, Washington Post, well, you know about the Tea Party movement. So they found that they did a poll. The Washington Post reported in October 2010 that 87% of them were dissatisfied with their mainstream Republican Party leaders. Even though the populace was responsible for electing candidates to the political body, once stated, they found they've been not living up to their commitments to the populace. And so, like, they're American 4 or 5. And, well, the Tea Parties hate paying taxes too. That was another concern for them specifically. But their protest was coordinated over 40 different cities starting February 2009. Now, a bit about the what did you call it, Mo? Corporatocracy. Here's kind of what started the anger that led to Wall Street. I'm not sure if you know too much about the subprime thing, but investors in Wall Street 2007-8 took subprime mortgages and bundled them up as mortgage derivatives so they could be sold and rebundled and resold, pension funds and banks around the world. That it would cost the states a lot of money. See, the subprime mortgages, in case you don't know what they are, it's sort of like, hey, you don't have a lot of money, you want to get a house, no problem. Here's here's a loan or whatever. The ratio of subprime mortgages rose from 8%, which was kind of the norm for a long time, up to 20%, and most of them, 90% of them, were adjustable rate mortgages, which means that the interest could change whenever. So you take a loan out, and while you're paying it off, the interest unbeknownst to you, goes up, raises all of a sudden on principal, and that was adjusted based on a market index. And so economists say that because of things like this, the ratio of debt to disposable income in the states went up from 0.77 to 1.27, meaning before 0.77 or 77%, before, hey, you had a lot of debts to pay, that's okay, you still have some extra money at the end of the day for yourself, shoots up to 1.27. You can't work enough to pay the debt that you have at that point. So this plan, the double bundling and the subprime thing, it costs the states, and these are stats from Alan Grayson, former economist and former U.S. representative of Florida, approximately $17 trillion collectively over the national economy, financial institutions, and life savings and accrued assets of millions of Americans. So this information is fairly conclusive. You hear about the subprime thing right here if you're in a business course at the UofW. It's been reported in the New York Times. But no one was held responsible, and the people who were kind of responsible sort of had economic immunity because of their wealth. So the ability of politicians to make economic and political corrections were swayed by Wall Street. So Alan Grayson also said, just to put it in perspective, 17 trillion, it's about 20% of the nation's net worth that was accumulated over the U.S.'s history. And there was about 24 million can't find a full-time job, 47 million people who need help to feed themselves, 15 million families who owe more in their mortgage than the expense of their own homes. So going back to the Declaration of Independence, it says humans have rights, you know them, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and to secure these rights, governments are instituted, deriving their powers from the consent of the governed, and that when the form of government becomes destructive or dissuade from these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and instate new government or lay new foundations. So Occupy Wall Street is exercising its rights. In Detroit, specifically, the stats are out, and the unemployment rate is under 30%. That's a stat made by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But the city mayor and other local leaders have suggested a more disturbing figure. The actual jobless rate, they say, is closer to 50% because the Bureau of Labor Statistics omits. What they look at is people who are actively looking for full-time work. But what they omit is part-time workers who are looking for full-time jobs because they need the money, or frustrated job seekers who abandon the job search altogether. So 50%. Windsor's pretty bad too, as you know. It's second highest in the country right now as of new stats. It's about 10.5, but it was second to Barrie, but again, it doesn't factor in people who've just given up looking to work. So the figure's looking more like 20%. So as of October 14th in Detroit and October 15th here in Windsor, you have Occupy Windsor and Occupy Detroit. And October 14th, people in support of the Occupy movement, US, and go check it out. Thank you.